Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our session about ideation. I would like, first of all, to thank the TDRA to host us and to give us the opportunity to share the knowledge and to speak about such an interesting subject, which is touching every type of life or business. And it's something we were needed a lot those days. TDRA giving us this opportunity will help really to translate the message that we learn, and we are trying to educate the people through or to deliver this message for all of you. So first of all, when we will speak about this subject, it's a subject started to be very demanded, very important, and a lot of business, they are spending very good time trying to see how we can adopt the perfect ideas and to try to use it in day-to-day activity. First of all, let me start to introduce myself. My name Osama Mohra. I'm working as subject matter expert in design thinking and have more than 18 years of experience in the project and the project management and business analysis. Those experience, it's went through multiple countries from the United States to Canada, the Middle East, also in Dubai, and United Arab Emirates, as well as I have some experience in Tokyo, Japan. So working with the different companies and with the different types of mindset, it helped me to analyze and understand what exactly the patterns it's affecting the business, what the things it's helping the different organization the most to translate their business need into successful ideas, and how those ideas can be translated for something really we can take it further and change it to value at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, we are trying to generate the value for the business by translating those ideas. And ideation, it's one of the most important topic in those days for the different company. Taking it further, and after this quick introduction about myself, let's start to speak about ideation. What is the ideation and why it's very important for the different business? If we will try to analyze how the business is working and how the vivid and rapid movement in the business it's happening in those days, we'll notice like each company, they will try always, and each organization, they will try always to find mechanisms and methods to adopt and to use a strong idea in the business. But the challenge we are facing, how we will be able to understand what is the strong idea, how we will be able to understand if this idea is good or if this idea is not really what we will need to spend our money and efforts, because each idea, it needs resources at the end of the day. So ideation, it's a technique, and me and you will go in the next couple of minutes, like through this technique to understand how we will be able to collect those ideas, how we will be able to sort those ideas, how we will be able to analyze this idea, and then how we will be able to translate those ideas into value, how we will be able to move ahead with those ideas, and what will be the next step after we will have a wonderful and beautiful ideas inside the business. We cannot keep doing the same things inside our business or our life, and then we will expect a different results. So we need always to have like a source of a change, and this is why ideation is very important. So in a very simple language, it's about collecting, sorting, managing the different ideas in that context will help us to achieve the value. And I'm very careful with the words I'm using. I didn't say like to achieve a certain objectives. I didn't say that we will need to achieve just the goals. No, it's the value, and the value, it's a vary from one business to another business. So what it's working for X company might be it's totally different from what will work for another company. So we'll try always here like to gather that and to gather those ideas with the right context, and the context is will help the value to maximize and to achieve what we are looking for inside the business that we are trying to grow or we are trying to achieve. Of course, always whenever we will talk about the value, always guys, like also we need to keep it in the consideration. We will need to understand the vision of the organization, where we are looking to go, what exactly the doors we are looking to open, and the horizon we are trying to achieve. All of those questions needed, first of all, to be gathered. So after that, as a subject matter expert or an expert inside the organization, and this is speech for the managers, for the leaders, or even for the team leaders and supervisors, how we will be able really like to start the journey, what the very first step and the tools and techniques that we will need to do. Usually the answer for this question I'm getting from different people, like we need to do a brainstorming, we need to sit together and we need to open the door for the people, so they will start to engage, they will start to share their ideas, they will try to put those ideas in the way or a communication message between the different team members and between us as the one who will select and will make a decision about those ideas. But just sitting on one table and exchange the ideas is not always the best technique to achieve and to collect and to do the ideation. So in the next couple of slides, I will share with you what the best practice, what the techniques that we can use to make this brainstorming session about the collecting the idea, it's more effective. One of the very cool techniques here, we will start to speak about it, like understanding or setting the rules, that those rules will control those different techniques. And the very first rule before we will go to this brainstorming session and before we will start to speak about the different tools and the different techniques to use, we need to understand, first of all, there's no bad idea. This is very interesting point. And you should never, ever waste any idea. All the ideas, it's presenting a mindset, a beautiful mindset of a person or a worker or a subject matter expert. And every idea is coming usually from an experience or from like a certain view and viewpoints. And these viewpoints, usually inside our business or our life, we are gaining that one because of like a hands-on experience. So you cannot ignore any idea. This is the rule number one. The second thing, like whenever we will start to speak about the idea, one of the very big headache I notice in different companies I work with them, there's a noise will happen. And the noise with the way between the sender and the receiver of the idea. This noise will prevent the transparency delivery of the idea from the sender to the receiver. We'll find sometimes like the idea, it has a certain shape and context, but because of this noise, and this noise because of the lack of the communication skills, because of the lack of the tools of the communication, because of certain stress in the work environment or politics inside the organization, so will not be able really to capture those ideas as it's supposed to be, and that will prevent us to achieve our goal with the ideation. The third rule, like after we will understand that we need to capture everything in a very clear way, we will need to do like the hybrid brainstorming. So there's no static way, there's no one way to do the collection and to do the understanding of those ideas. We will need to do it in multi-dimension. We will need to do it in different styles. And this style depends about the idea itself, depends on the level of change we are trying to achieve inside the organization. So sometimes we will just sit in interview and do face-to-face exchange of the idea, but sometimes no, we will hide the identity of the person who will give the idea. Might be you will find it funny, like why I will need to hide the identity of the person who will give the idea. Usually that just to make sure that we will get freedom of giving the idea regardless how much it will the other managers they will like or they don't like. So sometimes like we will go with that direction. I will explain that a little bit later today in our section. But the more important always to understand that we supposed to have multi-dimension 360 review for the different ideas, not to concentrate only in certain way of collecting what the idea. The very last thing also, we will need to understand whenever we'll come to ideation, and it's one of the rare concepts where we are collecting or concentrating about the quantity over the quality, at least in the first stage. So the more the ideas you are collecting, the more you will be able to sort it out. You will more you will be able to yield those ideas, so you will be able to verify. So I will not start first of all immediately by qualify the ideas. No, we'll start first of all by collecting as many ideas as we want. So please keep it that in your mind, and I hope it's a clear 4 rules that usually whenever we are working to collect a great ideas, we are following always those 4 rules. No bad idea. Try always to use different techniques to make sure that the idea is a transfer in a very clear way between the sender and receiver. Try to use multiple mechanisms and techniques to collect the ideas, and finally collect as many as you can collect as an ideas. The very first technique usually here, whenever we will speak about ideation, and it's one of my favorite technique, we call it the brainstorming. And the very first technique in that one, we will have the mind maps for the brainstorming. Brainstorming as a word, like we are trying to just run, and I think everyone inside his business, he heard about this technique. It's like to use some tools and techniques to extract, to excavate the ideas from the brain of the people, though it's a quite harsh explanation, but that literally what we are trying to do. We will try to go deep dive in the mindset of the subject matter expert or the workers or the team inside the organization, to excavate and to collect the ideas by sharing those ideas through different communication skills. And that what we are going to explain in the next slides. What exactly the tools, what exactly the techniques that we can use to collect those ideas in a very clear way from the different team members that we are working with them. One of my favorite tools during the brainstorming is the Fishbone, or usually we call it Ishikawa diagram, or sometimes we will call it cause and effect. Whenever we are trying to collect an ideas, and especially to solve any problem, we will try to use this technique, and we call it Fishbone. If you will look at the graph, I think it's a very clear. It's looking like the literally the fishbone. So it's the way how we will try to identify the core problem we are trying to solve, and this is, we call it the head of the fish, which is might be in regard to cost we are trying to reduce, or for example, like a new market we are trying to achieve, or might be like the idea it's about like some major headache we are facing in our project. So sometimes the idea it's about opportunity we are trying to capture, and sometimes the idea no, it's about what? It's about like a problem we are trying to solve inside the business. So no matter what this idea, the Fishbone will enforce us to go and break this idea to multiple components, to different directions. And we will try to ask ourselves in that session of a brainstorming, when we will do the ideation, okay guys, why we are struggling with this project? Let's start with the big title first. Tell me what the things that we are facing. Might be what we are facing, it's about lack of resources or machine, or might be we are facing like something like a lack in manpower, or might be we don't have the clear map or the planning, and this is why we are facing those challenges in the project. Or might be the type of the material and the quality that we got it is different. I'll tell them fair enough. After we collected the main fish bone, let's start to speak about subsidiary bones. Let's start to speak about like the small reasons it's caused the big problem. So if it's, for example, about the machine, why exactly we are facing this headache with the machine? Where the mistakes it's happened? What the cause that it's push us with that direction where we have the problem? If it's about the plan, what exactly the failure it's happened in the plan? Is it in regard to risk management? Is it in regard to procurement management? Where exactly the challenges that we face in the plan? So we'll try in a very simple language, guys, whenever it will come to the fishbone, to start with the big headache, then we will try to break it to smaller and smaller and smaller. And look at these guys here. The whole ideas, it will concentrate about collecting as many as possible about view and the viewpoints from the different team members, from the different units which they are involved and they have this problem as a common headache. So this is one of my favorite techniques, and usually I will start it in early stage. Why will we start to collect the problem? Albert Einstein, he said once a very lovely sentence. He's telling if he has a 60 minutes to give an idea and solution, he will spend the 55 minutes to understand the problem. So the more you will collect an information and ideas about the problem, the more it will make the decision more wise. We call it like knowledge management wisdom. The decision is more wise. The second technique also we call it Delphi, and this is one of the most funniest and the most interesting technique ever in the brainstorming. What is Delphi technique? And a lot of my team, they are asking me, Usama, where is this word Delphi it's coming from? Actually, it's a quite funny like source of this one. It's coming from the ancient Roman Delphi circle, where they will use that one to come up with a technique to solve the problem. The major problem we are facing in the brainstorming, sometimes some people, and listen to me carefully here, some people, they will be scared to share their idea because they are scared it will be judged, or might be they are scared if there's a conflict between their idea and their manager or boss idea, that will put them in some how to say that, unhappy situation. And let's be honest guys, each organization, it has politics, like we like it, we don't like it, it's a fact. So whenever it will come to this technique guys, we are trying to anonymously collect the ideas without telling who said what. So without telling, for example, this is the idea of Usama, or this is the idea of Nadine or Julia. So we'll try always to isolate the idea from the one who give it. And we'll try to use, for example, a black box to collect the idea, or for example, an email. We'll go to the HR without announcing who said this idea. There's a multi ways to collect it, but it's a very lovely technique, and I will really suggest you to do it from time to time, and you will be surprised. The silence people, they will start to speak because they are feeling more free, they're more confident about sharing those ideas. So this also one of my favorite techniques, and it's completing the previous one to collect more independent and straightforward ideas about different titles. One of the things also I will use in my projects, it's the mind map. Sometimes during ideation, we will find ourselves, especially in some brainstorming session, we are going so far from the main title and main problem. I don't know if it's happened to you guys, but sometimes you will find yourself in some meeting, you will need to speak about X project, but then without you will understand how it's happened, you will find yourself speaking also about Y project, about Z project, and you will find yourself in the situation, guys, why we are discussing this? What exactly that will help us with the main problem we are doing? So in that type or in this situation, I will suggest you to use as a part of ideation the mind map. When you will put the core of the meeting or the idea you want to achieve, I want to reduce the cost. I want to reduce the cost by 15%. How we will do that one? Okay, first of all, we can work with the IT. Second, we can work, for example, with the operation. Third, we can work also with the procurement. Also, everything we are taking, everything we are discussing, always it will go around the central mind map. So if we will speak about the IT, we will go to this right now map and we will look about the subsidiary map. What exactly related to the IT will help us to achieve like the goal or to achieve the target we want, and we will collect ideas. But all those ideas right now, it's not random, it's not independent, it's going with the same context. It's going with the direction where we will need really to consider it as what as matching the ideal goal or the ideal objective we are looking for. I will be careful when I will use mind map again, guys. If we are talking about a new service or a new product, to be honest with you, I will not suggest mind map. I will suggest like to go independence. I will go to the normal brainstorming when everyone will share everything. While if I will have a major pain or a headache I would like to solve, and I want the team to keep concentrating, and the ideas will go with that with a single direction. So mind map, one of the very lovely tools I'm going to use. So if you will look at this, there's an array of the tools. from the normal brainstorming session to the next technique when we will start to speak about the fishbone, where we will try to identify the main elements and the subsidiary elements, then to the Delphi technique, which we call it usually anonymous ideation, anonymous collecting the information. And the third one, it's about what? About the mind map. Mind map, as I told you, it's a very lovely technique when you want your team to concentrate. You want the idea to be very straightforward and concentrating with a certain direction without the team will go right and left. And sometimes that what it's happening, and it will cost us a lot of money and a lot of time. At the end of the day, we'll try to wrap the idea. We'll try to understand how we can put the different ideas in one context, how we will be able to understand what the relationship with those ideas. At the end of the day, because we are using the experience of the team members and the experience of the people, it's not always the ideas, it's a very isolated. Wrapping the idea will help us to understand how we can look in common view, in a very similar mindset to the different ideas, and start to evaluate those ideas. That will help us to understand what the pros and cons for each idea, what exactly the similar idea, and what will differentiate X idea from Y idea. So that will help us in a very simple language to come up with master file idea, which it's an idea of ideas. It's a way how we will be able to present all the ideas together, and we will be able to present it finally as a project or something can be translated to what to the day-to-day activity, and translate to operation, translate to change management inside the organization. So rapid the idea, it's a very lovely technique. We are using it to categorize and to put all the ideas together. We'll support that usually also with something we call it the star bursting. In this technique, we will try for any idea, we will get it, and this one of my favorite technique to analyze, to evaluate, to understand the value of the idea, to understand how these ideas is good. So we will push everyone to answer a couple of questions. Why this idea? Who will be affected by the idea? What exactly needed to this idea? How we will be able to translate this idea into real life? Where it will take apart? What the things will be affected? When it will need to be happen? Like taking those different questions, guys, and putting and analyze each idea with these, it will give you like a 360-degree, as I started my session, evaluation for those different ideas. And it will help us really to make sure that those ideas, they are evaluated in a fair way, in a good way, with a good questions and answers for each idea by the end of the session. With this way, me and you, like we covered, like a common of the best practice and the best techniques to collect the different ideas, to analyze those ideas, to sort those ideas. I tried to share it with you guys in a very simple language and taking it further to make sure that really we are able, by using those techniques, to collect like every single experience. I don't like to call it only idea. It's the idea is representing an experience. The idea is representing a viewpoint. It's representing an experience of the people. So usually, like if we will use the best practice and follow some of those best practice to collect the idea, will help us not to miss any part. This is just an introduction to put all of us in the right track, how we can collect the idea, how we can analyze the idea, and how we will be able to make those ideas at the last stage to translate, as I mentioned, to something can be implemented, can take part in the change management inside the organization, and how we will be able even to evaluate and select the good. And as I told you, there's no bad ideas. I will leave some time for you guys by the end of this session, like for the question and answers, like for the topics that we already highlighted. I got one question here. What is the main tool for ideation? As a simple answer for this question, the brainstorming, it's the master file of those tools. But to be honest with you guys, there's no main tool. It depends about the organization and the headache that we are facing. So sometimes I will try to go and I will try to start with what with the fishbone in the way how we will collect the ideas because we have a problem and we want really to understand whatsoever related to this one. Sometimes no, I will start with what will start with the Delphi technique and I will call it the main tool because really I feel there's a lot of politics and there's a like might be a great idea, but they are hidden. They are not really ready to come up to the surface. So to push the people to share their best ideas, I will go with the Delphi technique. So the situation and your experience will let you decide which is the best idea and what the idea you will need to use it in different situations. I hope that will clarify the question. I got also one more question. Is this the only tools? Of course, no. There are so many other tools that we can use for ideation. This is like just how to say like a quick hints and for the most like known tools. There's something we call it nominal group. There we have also something we call it the focus group, the workshop. There is a lot of plenty tools and techniques. You can find it, you can search it, and I will have hope like we will have a future sessions where we will be able to take it further and go deep dive in details with those one. So there's no limitation actually for the tools. This session it's more concentrated to give you like the best practice and the top tools is used in the domain. But of course, there's a plenty of tools, guys, and each one of them like a wonderful if you will use it in the right time and the right context. I got also one more question. What is the best approach for beginning in the brainstorming? This is a very good question here. Like whenever we'll start to the brainstorming, it will be a very good idea to first of all define the value, define the objective, define what exactly the outcome that we would like to achieve. So usually whenever I will start my brainstorming session, I will crystal clear define for the team what the value we would like. We would like, for example, guys, to go and enhance and to boost our product in the market. I want, for example, to go and knock the door of a new market. Or I would like, for example, to have my product to be more unique and differentiated from the other. So first of all, we will start with the value and the major objectives that we are looking for. Then we will let the how to say that we will let the game start. And okay, team, here we are. So let's start to collect those information. Let's take the idea. So usually after I will collect this idea, as I mentioned, I will try to sort it out. And sorting the idea based on the common context will group those idea. Might be will group the idea based on the nature of the change we are looking for or the project we are looking. Might be will group the idea based on the department that will need to do the project with those departments. So the approach I will use in a very simple language, starting with the clarify the value we are trying to achieve, then letting the people draw their ideas, share their ideas with the different tools I mentioned. Third, we will try to group those ideas so that will help us to use, for example, the star busting. And also there's a lot of other techniques, same like star busting also, which we call it idea ranking, when we will try to rank the idea in different dimensions. However, like there's a plenty of tools will help us, depends on the things that we are trying to achieve. I hope like I was able to answer those questions. And at the end of this session, I would like to thank everyone for giving us a part of their time. I would like also to thank the TDRA for giving us the opportunity also to share our knowledge and to exchange it with a different team member. I will be happy always to receive any questions and to try to use the YouTube channel to answer those questions. It's really a pleasure to meet all of you guys. I hope it was a nice, lovely, short session. Take our mindset in different tools and techniques of ideation and how it's touching and it can affect the different business in multiple contexts and in the way how the business can grow and achieve its value. So again, thanks very much for the TDR for this one, and I hope I will meet you guys in more related topics for that one. Always there's an opportunity for a growth. There's always an opportunity to enhance. So thanks for everyone for being with us today.